I got one idea that I'm especially psyched out of my mind about. You know, it's one of those ideas where you're just like, yes!
Dave? Dave Flynn?
On the radio!
Hold on to your butts.
Hey there, welcome to Dave Flynn on the radio, the #1 blogcast on the internet. I'm Dave Flynn, and since reading is hard, I'm going to do it for you. Welcome back to the 3rd annual Recommengine. What is a Recommengine? I'm glad you asked. As a brief review, a Recommengine is a recommendation engine, and it's something I invented around the campfire in 2008. My friends laughed, and it wasn't because it was a bad idea, not because somebody else had already done it, but I lacked all of the relevant skills to build such a thing. So nothing happened, not until 2023, and this series of blog posts. Now, this is not a search engine filtered through personalized interactions on a social graph, but it still may be of use to you, my dear reader and listener. What follows are the things I stumbled across over the past 12 months that I've recommended to friends and family, and now you. I do this annually as my last post of the year. If you follow all the links and read all the books, watch all the videos, we might not see you around here until this time next year, but you should totally do it. A quick note, I will skip around a bit. Some of the blog material, such as meme of the year and viral video of the year, they don't translate so well to the podcast format. So for the full list and all of the eye candy, make sure you check out the blog as well. Okay, before we get started, can I just say thank you? Thank you. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing with friends. It's been another fantastic year at Win with Flynn HQ. I love doing this content, and I hope you find the posts useful and entertaining. If you do enjoy the blog and the blogcast, keep sharing. We grew readership by 400% last year because people shared, and I'd like to do that again in 2026. It's fun. It feeds my fragile ego, and it makes cocktail parties a bit easier to bear. If you really, really enjoy the blog, check out the books. They will make you look and feel smarter. We've got the 31 Easy season quickly approaching. It is a great challenge and a great companion to your dry January ambitions. If you need a bit of a boot in the butt to get that completed, you can check out the 31 Easy Somewhat Motivational Journal, updated this year with a new cover, about 10 to 15% new content. You are going to love it. So give 31 Easy a try. If you've got all the books, you've got all the journals, circle back, give them 5 stars. It will make you feel just a little less dead inside, and I want that for you. One more thing. If you'd like these posts delivered straight to your inbox, subscribe. It's the easiest thing you can do. I've got a new book coming, hopefully this spring, if I can ever get it done, and subscribers will get the pre-order discount when it launches. So hook yourself up and get the emails coming. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's jump into this year's Recommengine. Quote of the year, Charles Bukowski from the Los Angeles Free Press, March 3rd, 1967. So quote of the year, not actually from the year, but I read it this year. So here we go. Charles Bukowski is a guy I've been stumbling across for years. I knew the name, and especially thanks to Dylan, who we'll get to a bit later on, but Bukowski's stuff is very hard for me. I don't do much poetry, and I'm not a clever, snarky, melodramatic drunk. So that's the problem. But he says stuff like this. That's the problem with drinking. I thought as I poured myself a drink. If something bad happens, you drink in an attempt to forget. if something good happens, you drink in order to celebrate. And if nothing happens, you drink to make something happen. That's from Bukowski in his book Women, 1978. And it's not our quote of the year, but it's a damn great line. And when you spend your formative years in Burien and then Pullman, well, let's just say there's a version of me that can relate to what Bukowski's talking about there. Some of Bukowski's work is difficult and the other stuff is just really challenging, but he has a wonderful free spirit and an inspiring perspective on the world despite all the booze. Like many, I entered via Post Office, which is his best-selling book. But that's really just the tip of the Bukowski iceberg. I really like his interviews because he'll say stuff like this. I see men assassinated around me every day. I walk through rooms of the dead, streets of the dead, cities of the dead, men without eyes, men without voices, men with manufactured feelings and standard reactions, men with newspaper brains and television souls and high school ideas. That's Bukowski in an excerpt I found in Sunlight Here I Am, which is a book of interviews. And that, my readers and listeners, is our quote of the year. This was his response to a question about the JFK assassination. And most people would zig, but he zags, and he does it with a style all his own. Learning more about Bukowski, I definitely want nothing to do with his life. Seemed very sad a lot of the time. But to avoid that newspaper brain with Instagram and the television soul via YouTube and the high school ideas via high school, somehow through that haze of vodka sevens, he was able to see things very clearly. Okay, next we'll get into some videos. I can't get into all of them, so we'll skip straight to a gentleman named Sheehan Quirk, who is the cultural tutor online. And he did a great long-form video called How Did the World Get So Ugly? If you haven't heard of the cultural tutor, he puts out a lot of content on the socials, and he's another creator, kind of like Bukowski, except for less booze, that I didn't quite get initially. I'm not really into design or architecture. That's a personal failing. But this long-form video found me when I was properly primed, I think. Just prior to seeing it, I had been shown a few pictures of Washington Road. Do you know Washington Road? You probably don't, but you probably know something like it. And for me, it's called Pack Highway in the Seattle, King County area. But Washington Road runs just outside of Augusta National Golf Club, home of the Masters. Augusta is one of the most pristine golf courses on the planet. And every spring, I've got one of my best naps. I already have it scheduled. And I do that while the Masters plays, the azaleas in full bloom, birds chirping, Jim Nantz and Nick Faldo describing the action in hushed voices. That is my tradition, unlike any other. But I was surprised to learn that when the players leave Augusta, the friendly confines of that beautiful course, and they head for their hotels, they are just absolutely transported into a whole new universe, one that feels a lot more familiar to me than the manicured landscapes of the Golf Channel. So this is common, at least in the United States. It's something called mullet culture, at least that's what I call it. And they say it's the business up front, party in the back, but what they really mean is, it's trash in the back. In Quirk's video, he takes us on a tour of places that are mostly unseen, places that have every right to be a Washington Road, a Pack Highway, but they're not. They're beautiful while still being utilitarian, and the downstream impact of living and working in and amongst those beautiful places with high quality, it can't be understated. He argues that the design of public spaces and infrastructure reflects a society's values, and he contrasts Victorian-era approaches with the modern priorities. Next up is Casey Neistat. Will AI slop into creativity? Casey has made the list before, and he is the weblog GOAT. But this video leaves me asking whether he'll ever make the list again. Will anybody? Because OpenAI has a new video generation app. It's called Sora, and it is an AI TikTok clone. And it's at the center of all this controversy. Although at the time of this writing, there's other companies that have entered the space as well. The main takeaway has to do with the funnel, the content creation funnel. And that funnel is getting really, really big because the robots are coming. So constraints for creativity and sharing your creations are going away completely, to the point where in this last iteration, even the creativity part is gone. The robots just do it for you. And Casey calls it AI slop. I don't know if he invented that, but I like it and I use it often. So he shows the literal funnel, all of this content that is being pushed out onto all the media platforms. My take, the bottom of the funnel will always be constrained, regardless of how you define quality. The measure is, do people watch? Do they listen? Do they read? The constraint is attention, and there's only so many hours in the day. With a massive top of the funnel and the same old bottom, the long tail, as they call it, gets even longer. People will get more customized content, which could be cool, but that also means that the world gets fewer shared cultural moments. And for me, that was showing up at Camelot Elementary School on a Monday morning to talk about one thing and one thing only, and that is Homie the Clown and In Living Color.
Homie, don't play that.
And that is the sad part about AI slop. Okay, next up is streaming. What should you be checking out on your streamers? For me, an 80s child, there's two must-see documentaries, Being Eddie on Netflix and I Like Me on Amazon Prime. Eddie Murphy, John Candy, these guys were a huge part of my childhood, and the documentaries reveal really how talented both of them are is amazing, and how big they both got. Eddie was the biggest, and he was huge in the US, but also internationally. John Candy, crazy big in Canada. It is wild how big a celebrity he was up in Canada and how they both dealt with the fame. And I just wish John Candy actually liked himself as much as his character, Del Griffith, did in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
You want to hurt me? Go right ahead if it makes you feel any better. I'm an easy target. Yeah, you're right. I talk too much. I also listen too much. I could be a cold-hearted cynic like you. But I don't like to hurt people's feelings. Well, you think what you want about me. I'm not changing. I like me. My wife likes me. My customers like me. Because I'm the real article. What you see is what you get.
Okay, next up. If a movie has special forces, I'm pretty much all in. I love them, and Warfare is my recommendation. It did not disappoint. It is a down and dirty, action-packed war movie. It is 100% focused on just one single hellish encounter in 2006, the Battle of Ramadi. I heard about the movie on the Jocko podcast, who had actually fought over there. And he interviews the real-life Elliot Miller and Joe Hildebrand, who are key characters in the film. And the podcast was really interesting because Jocko's SEAL Team 3 Task Unit Bruiser had actually turned over to Miller and Hildebrand and their SEAL Team 5 just a month before the events. So when you turn over, you're in charge of sort of training them up a bit on the techniques that you're using at the time based on what the enemy is doing. So they were very close in timing and knew each other, not just as fellow SEALs, but they had actually worked closely together over in Ramadi. Okay, next up is Shrinking on Apple TV Plus, which I don't know. I'm struggling to find real funny shows. And Shrinking, it has some serious bombs, but man, it delivered some actual, literal, real world LOLs over the 2 seasons. I was seriously cracking up on some of these things. It is so dumb, and I really enjoyed it. And more fun than that, quietly, Apple TV Plus, I'll just recommend the network. It is turning into one of the top streamers. My wife and I also enjoyed Your Friends and Neighbors. We watched Presume Innocent. I watched Mr. Scorsese and, of course, Severance and Ted Lasso and all the big ones that they've had over the years. But they had quite a few smaller title releases over the last year or so that we checked out. Speaking of Scorsese, you watch the doc and then you get into his stuff. So I went from Scorsese to watching Taxi Driver, and it is a classic for good reason. You talking to me? I love it when I finally see an old movie that I've been repeating the line for, 20 years and didn't even know where it came from. And Taxi Driver delivered. If you want just plain old violence on the Western frontier, American Primeval will do the trick. And after you're done, you can lighten things up with a little bit of suburban violence with a dash of comedy with No Good Deed on Netflix. Next up is the podcast of the year, and the award goes to Rick Rubin, The Reducer and Tetragrammaton, which is one of my favorite shows. If you want to hear economist Tyler Cowen talk about choral music, Rick's got you. If you're more interested in Tony Hawk discussing the skills required, pain tolerance, to make it to the top of skateboarding, Rick's got you too. And if your preference is a deep dive on jazz flute from hip-hop legend Andre 3000, just leave that to Rick Rubin and Tetragrammaton. When Rick decided to leave the Broken Record podcast, I was pretty bummed. I really enjoyed his perspective on that show, but he left for good reason. Rubin is best known for his work as a music producer, but he's got a variety of interests. Tetragrammaton is allowing him to explore all of those, not just music. And one of the gripes I hear about this blogcast is that I'm a little unfocused. Apparently, the successful blogs cover one subject and they do it really, really well. Readers know what they're going to get. And the same goes for podcasts. You see Huberman talks health and Founders talks biographies. Jocko tells war stories. But I like to ramble, and so does Rick. And what I like even more is when someone like Rick lends his experience in music to a new domain. And when he allows others to do the same thing, like Cowan did with the choral music. And when someone like Huberman strays, and he had his old neighbor, Stephen Pressfield, on to talk about creativity and resistance instead of, heart disease and interval training. And I'm definitely down for that. Okay, pod clip of the year. Not necessarily the show, although the show's great, but this clip is amazing, and it's from Conan O'Brien, Needs a Friend. And this video came through my feed just as I was going to publish, and I'm glad it did. It's so damn funny, and it's so damn sad as well. Grief, that gallows humor, whatever you want to call it. I mean, when your time comes, wouldn't you feel good to get one last laugh with the fellas and the family? I sure think I would. So with all that pain, laughter really is the best medicine, and it's such a relief. And the more trouble you've got bottled up, the more that release just comes pouring out. And I think good friends can help you find that release valve. So here's the clip.
If I may bring up a touchy, this is real personal subject
okay.
for you.
It's okay. I know what it is.
Death in the family.
Yep. My parents passed.
Well, first, let me just say the timeline, because I have it here. I wrote it down last year because the timeline was so good.
Yeah.
And so I hear that your dad passes away, and I text you that day or the next day, and I said, hey, listen, I'm sorry to hear about your dad's passing, sending love from our family to yours. Mm-hmm. And you wrote, thank you, Will. To be honest, I blame Bateman.
for the death of my father.
The day after his father dies.
Yeah.
Right? So I wrote, it's not a terrible theory. And Conan texted me back, he killed my dad.
Oh my God!
Okay.
My dad, can I say, in fairness, my dad would have loved this.
Okay. So then Bateman, I tell Bateman this, we're doing a thing that day. So the next day, Bateman texts you and he says, Arnett tells me you're on to me.
Yes.
And Conan texts Bateman and he says, Bateman, do yourself a favor, turn yourself in. Right? Right.
Yeah.
2 days after your dad passes, of course, your mom passed away.
Yeah, which I did not see coming.
Which you did not see coming. So I text you 2 days after. I knew you were in Boston. I said, Bateman is asking for your sister's street address.
Yes.
Oh, okay to give.
Yeah.
And you were busy that weekend. Then like a day and a half later, you texted back, just seeing this now. Fantastic. 625 Boylston Street, apartment 12C. Tell Bateman to make it look like a robbery.
All right. Snack of the year is next. A hotly debated and anticipated category. And the truth is, this one, it was on the list last year. Yeah, I'll admit it. It was on the list and I took it off at the last minute. Why? I don't know. I didn't want to be a health influencer quite yet. But over the past year, I've told a bunch of people about this dirty little secret, and the reviews have been extremely positive. So here we go. I'm a big kid. And based on the current bro science, I need about 180 grams of protein a day. And it used to feel impossible to hit that target. But then I found a simple recipe from Kelly Starrett, the mobility wad guru. And he makes a little something called protein pudding. And that, my listeners, is the snack of the year. Here's how you do it. You just need your favorite plain yogurt. You need your favorite scoop of protein powder, and you're going to stir them together. You got me? If it gets a little thick, and it will get a little thick, especially if your yogurt is really thick, you may want to add a little bit of milk. But you stir that sucker together and you get yourself a thick, satisfying pudding that's got 30, 50, maybe 70 grams of protein, depending on what kind of freak you are. And I love it. It makes hitting my daily protein goal a whole lot easier. If you want to be super gluttonous and extremely awesome, you can add a big ass scoop of peanut butter to it. And for me, that makes a nice chocolate peanut butter protein pudding. It's a healthy alternative to Reese's peanut butter cups. Yes, the ones you've been stealing from your kid's stash since Halloween. Okay, next up is my purchase of the year. And you might think I'm going small. I'm definitely not going small. This is the Spalding 54-inch momentous basketball hoop. Yes, a basketball hoop. Did you think I was coming through with a tongue scraper? No, not here on this blogcast. So maybe you don't need a basketball hoop. Who does? Who does? Maybe you've got better things to do. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? But at our place, we've got bocce ball, and we've got croquet, and we've got wiffle ball, and we've got frisbees. We've got a trampoline. We've got a damn archery set. We have spike ball, and even this really fun Scandinavian game called Cub. And I love them all, but they don't come out much. Why, you might ask? Well, I said it right there. The word is come out. Once those games are neatly stored away, there they sit, my friends. It is a tenet of environmental design. If you want to change your behavior, you change your surroundings, damn it. And I don't really care if my basketball game improves at this point. I'm an old man, 44 years young. But I do want to improve my surroundings with more play. And play has all sorts of wonderful benefits that we'll get into in a later post. But the biggest one is that long lost art of, are you ready for it? It's called having fun, regardless of how you choose to do it. So I'll be damned if this isn't the case with our family in this freaking basketball hoop. It's amazing. Every time you leave the house, you're walking past a hoop. There's a ball sitting right there. And why wouldn't you just put up a few jumpers while you wait for everybody to get their shoes on? Why wouldn't you? Think. On the way to the mailbox, couple jumpers, no big deal. My son comes home from school every day, just leans his head in the house, doesn't even take the shoes off. Dad, want to play? The answer, yes. Because play is good and play is fun, and we need more play. So we play a lot of basketball these days, and this hoop, it sure beats the hell out of a dartboard. Okay, technology of the year. I have recommended this sucker so many times. Everybody who walks by the house is asking about it. So here it is, the Segway Navimo. Now, I have a post coming up, and I don't want to just completely give it away, but it's about working with the robots, and that is what is coming, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to be working with them. I promise you that. So I'll get into the nitty-gritty on all the ways I'm embracing our new overlords on that post, but for now, a simple reco, the Segway Navi Mower. It knocks out about 95% of your mowing needs. I've got the i105N, but you're going to need to choose based on your yard size, okay? Don't just go out and buy the 105N. It might not be the right one for you. But Segway's got one for you. There's a few other brands that are pretty good as well. And this is what I like to call a unitasker. So it's slightly less likely to become your overlord, although it could still happen. It does one thing. It does one thing very well. So the Navi Mower, not going to rule the world, but it's going to put a lot of people out of business. That is the truth about it. I'm sorry to say. We call ours Bacon. He's like our little pet because we don't have a pet. So we call him Bacon and we love him very much. He saves us hours of time, saves us thousands of dollars. And a lot of people say, why don't you just hire a yard guy? And I'm going to tell you why I don't just hire a yard guy, because I've hired a few. And the reason is they suck. Yard guy is synonymous with gardener, but that is untrue. Gardeners are very expensive, at least in my area. They're very hard to find. And that is specialty work that I admire, and it's not going away. What most people have and what I had is a yard guy who just sort of walks behind a mower, sprays for weeds. They don't bend at the waist. They drive me nuts. They walk right past a weed. They just mow right over a dandelion. Did you not see the dandelion? Why are we mowing it? Now you just have the bottom of a dandelion. That's not grass. Okay? Can you see? I'm getting fired up. And don't get me started on the leaf blowing. It's a damn nuisance across neighborhoods all across America. It just pisses me off. So the yard guy got replaced by a whisper quiet robot. Okay, there is one gripe that don't edge yet. Bacon does not edge. So you have to go out once a week, once every other week, and get the weed eater going and do some edging. But otherwise, my lawn care is taken care of. And as another teaser for that upcoming post, I really like working alongside Bacon. And I think that's an underrated side effect that we're going to see in the coming years with these little robots. And it's really fun to get all that work done with my little buddy Bacon. Okay, next up, we have our social posts of the year. Up first is none other than Naval Ravikant. His post on X. When you truly work for yourself, you won't have hobbies, you won't have weekends, you won't have vacations, but you won't have work either. Hell yeah, Naval. Naval is inspiration to me. He is the undisputed king of tweets. And like a good quote, a good tweet has meaning. And if it's really good, it has meanings, plural. It's memorable. It'll get stuck in your craw. In the accompanying post and podcast on Naval's website, he breaks it down a little bit further, what he means by working for yourself. It's not just as a business owner. Plenty of entrepreneurs are still working in the classic sense. They're stressed and burned out and doing stuff they hate. Naval means something else, doing work because you genuinely want to, because it matters to you. That can happen whether you run a company or you work inside of it. And this is really what I'm going for. I think I'm doing it pretty darn well. outside of the, making money part. But hey, OpenAI isn't profitable either. How we come to select the work we work on is the next post, and it's from the Synesthetic, who covers a bunch of movie stuff and does a really good job of it. And so here is the post. When John Williams saw this scene from Schindler's List, and it's got a video of the scene with the girl in the red coat, and you can check it out on the blog if you don't know that scene, or just watch the movie. It's a great movie. So when John Williams saw this scene from Schindler's List in 1993, he was so moved, he stepped out to process it. He told Spielberg that Spielberg needed a better composer. Spielberg replied, "I know, but they're all dead." And this one really inspired me. You know what most of the comments were about? I mean, it's Twitter. It's the cesspool. So you probably don't want to know, but there was lots of religious this and political that. But the point of this post has nothing to do with any of that. And people just airballed it, or they want to argue. I'm not sure which, but this post is about imposter syndrome and leadership. How do we choose what we're going to work on? And we can start with this. It should be something so challenging, your first instinct is to decline it, to push it back, to defer to someone better. Like the first stage of the hero's journey, the denial of the call. And that's what John Williams was going through when he saw this scene. He said, "I don't think I can do this, man." The second part of selecting what to work on is this. It should be so unique that no one else can pull it off. Like the sword and the stone, only you can pull it out. The bar should appear impossibly out of reach. You should feel completely outmatched, and then you should do it anyways. And that's what John Williams did, and he did a terrific job. How was he able to do it? Well, he needed a little shove, a little leadership, and Spielberg saw what Williams couldn't, that only he among the living could do it. And he pushed him to take on the work. And for Spielberg, making that scene and that movie, holy smokes, I'm sure he was feeling the same way. So really, he was asking Williams to join him on that hero's journey. And together, they really pulled it off. Okay, next up is reading I Do a Lot of It. And I'll just narrow it down to a few. And we'll do short, long, small, big, some variety for you. So the first one is Blog Post of the Year. 900,000 versus 9 is the title, and it's by Seth Godin, which should come as no surprise. From a guy like me, I'm going to read the whole blog post for you. Want to know why? It's 47 words. It is so short, I just screen grabbed it here on the blog, and I'll tell you what, I love it because it's a great post, and I strive for this level of clarity to put out a post like this. So here it is, 900,000 versus 9. He says, it takes about 900,000 minutes to become board certified dermatologist. At that point, you might be very skilled and well informed. It takes less than 9 minutes to make your patient feel seen, understood, and reassured. If you skip the 9 minutes, you wasted the 900,000. Damn. Okay, next up is Essay of the Year, and it is called Here's How to Live, Create by Derek Sivers. I'll give you just the start of it. The most valuable real estate in the world is the graveyard. There lie millions of half-written books, ideas never launched, and talents never developed. Most people die with everything still inside of them. The way to live is to create, to die empty, to get every idea out of your head and into reality. And you can follow the link to read on. If you don't want to read on, go ahead and check yourself for a pulse. What it makes me think of is this quote that I wrote down a long time ago from Linda Rottenberg. She mentioned it on Reid Hoffman's Masters of Scale. And she said, the best ideas don't die in the marketplace or in the laboratory. They die in the shower. People don't even give themselves permission to walk out of the shower and write it on a napkin and take it into the world because they're afraid of what others are going to think about them, or that people might say, that's just a crazy idea. Okay, next up for your reading pleasure is from the vault. It's something called Fuck Around Itis from Martin Birkin. And Martin is the man behind intermittent fasting, the phenomenon that took over the planet years ago. Celebrities and influencers adopted his 18-6 protocol to drop pounds and get shredded for their movies. And intrigued, I read his book. One of the last chapters in that book is called Magic Bullet, where he describes the painful truth that no magic bullet exists, not even his precious intermittent fasting. So what actually made the difference for all of his clients getting ready for superhero movies? What most people need is to identify and eliminate what he calls fuck-around-itis. It's the half-assed attempt. Not exactly procrastination, but it's closer to just going through the motions. And what he says is, if you've been doing workouts 4 days a week for the last 15 years and still look like you do, you probably suffer from fuck-around-itis. And the post is, it's squarely in the domain of fitness, but I think it applies to a lot of life. So I would read it if I were you, and then reread it again. It had no new information. Like, I didn't learn anything, but I learned something about myself. And that was that I've got it for sure. And putting a name on things sometimes is the best way to give advice. And that's what he's doing. I didn't like the name. So give it a read and see if it applies to your life. Okay, next up for reading, another one from the vault. This is in the fiction category, and it's a little book called Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. And I had watched this movie years ago. I was probably too young. I didn't really understand the nuance, but it was terrifying. Hannibal, the cannibal. But a few years ago, I read a book called The Story Grid. And that book is about editing and improving your writing. And the author of that, Sean Coyne, pointed out that Silence of the Lambs is maybe the perfect example of a thriller. And sometimes with these books that are perfect, I sort of steer clear of them because it's hard to read something perfect when you're trying to write your own work. All you do is kind of feel down on yourself, like trying to get a good workout with Arnold back in the day. It's just too daunting. But I finally got brave, picked it up, and damn, it is terrific. And it's one of those two where the movie does some unique things that improve it. There's some parts of the book that are better and some parts of the movie that are better. So I'm not going to just say, hey, the book was better, but it's a great story overall. And the biggest thing is the character development. And it's like the first 10 pages, you've already met all of the key characters. They just jump straight into the action, which is something I'm working on with my writing. Okay, next up is nonfiction. I have quoted this book a number of times on the blog already because I finished this up in January or February of this year. And it is The Choice by Dr. Edith Eva Eger. And I know there is a very famous account of Auschwitz from a very famous psychiatrist, and that is Man's Search for Meaning. I love that book. I've read it cover to cover several times, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this book is better. Dr. Eger she's unbelievable, and her lessons are unforgettable, and she's just a better writer than Frankl, so it's not like competition between stories. Her writing is phenomenal, and the way she describes the events that her and her family went through under the Nazi occupation. So please read The Choice or listen to it as well. I did both. They're both phenomenal. It will change you for sure. Okay, next up is travel. It wasn't a huge travel year for me, but I did manage a long weekend on the Big Island, as well as the annual Burien Outdoor Adventure Club BOAC outing in Moab. In Kona, I would highly recommend you go night snorkeling with the manta rays. I had heard it was cool. It was cool. And now I'm telling you, it's cool. So go do it. Why? Because manta rays are big ass fish and they are swimming so friggin' close. You might lose it. I was losing it. They brush against you. They glide underneath you. And if you're like me, you giggle and you hoot and you holler through your snorkel to the delight and occasional annoyance of your fellow snorkelers. And that is okay. Embrace the moment. We used a company called SeaQuest Hawaii who took care of us, and they also gave us cookies and hot chocolate upon our return. And you say, you're in Hawaii, why do you need hot chocolate? But yes, in the wintertime, we were there in February, even in Hawaii, you can catch a chill after 60 minutes in the water. Okay, the next trip was with some of the same crew, the BOAC crew, and this one was to Moab. And I'll probably do a longer piece about this trip down the line, but if you're looking for an outfitter to get you down the Green River, and I hope that you are, Texas, TEXS, had everything dialed in. They had boats and shuttles and last-minute supplies and even the travel shitter, aka the ass gasket, it was amazing. It was an Apollo era groover forged from like a single block of iridium. It was probably used by Buzz Aldrin himself in low orbit, auctioned off on the outskirts of Houston during NASA's lean post-Apollo years. I mean, that's what it looked like to me, at least. But Moab was great. Last but not least, if you're in the Northwest and you're looking for a place to sleep in the dirt for a few nights, the kids and I loved our stay at Bumping Lake, which is east of Mount Rainier. I don't know if the roads getting there are even around anymore with all the storms, but I'd say go to the upper loop for you tent campers and the lower loop for the RV quote unquote campers. Bring something to float on, bring some bikes, bring some games, camp like we all did when America was younger and more vivacious. It's a great spot. Music. I know you've been waiting for the music. And we're going to try something different this year. I've gone through and just put up YouTube videos of some songs or concerts I've really enjoyed in the past. But this year, I've got a playlist, and it is plain and simple, just the songs that I liked this past year. Literally. And they're in order of when I liked them. Did I have a country moment? You bet your ass I did. Did I revisit some of my favorites like Led Zeppelin and Pearl Jam? Yeah, buddy, I did. And do I have a few that are somewhat embarrassing? Yep, I do. But it's not really worth posting if you're not going to show a little skin. You know what I mean? So check out the playlist. It is on Spotify. And there you have it. There is the list. That is the Recommengine for 2025. If you'd like to check out past years, they are absolutely not in audio format. We are going one direction here at Win with Flynn, but you can read them. I'll put the links in the post. But I'm wishing you all the best in 2026. And I'll see you right here this time next week. Take care. There we have it. That's the pod. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please share it with a friend. Give it a thumbs up. And if you've got a few extra seconds, give it a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you are listening. The engagement will make you feel so good, and it'll help other people find the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
All right, there you go, America. I love you. I'm proud of you. I mean it. We gotta go. This is great.